Today, we have grown to concern ourselves with the purity of our news and information. We call out journalists and news sources for bias. We denounce people of authority if they seem unreliable or if they're manipulating information. But I'm here to tell you that we, as a society, have overlooked one very important source of information: textbooks. The reasons and the means of having biased textbooks vary. Sometimes they are motivated by fostering patriotism and unity during times of political conflict. Sometimes information is withheld or manipulated for the purpose of reducing opposition. Regardless of the motives, there are commonalities in the means in which bias exists in our textbooks. The first form of bias is using words with positive or negative connotations selectively. Why is it that some groups murder and slaughter on the battlefield while others simply achieve a military victory? The deed is the same, yet the description isn't. One group is completely vilified and the other glorified. And this creates an impression in the reader's mind, one they may not even be aware of. I have interacted with this form of bias personally throughout my schooling. However, there is one particular quote that resonated with me and deeply disturbed me. The Spanish paid the Native Americans the high compliment of fusing with them through marriage and incorporating indigenous culture into their own, rather than shunning and eventually isolating the Indians as their British adversaries would do. For starters, it associated the worth and the value of an indigenous person with how a colonizer chose to interact with them. Second, this wording gives readers the impression that life under Spanish rule was somewhat pleasant, when in reality, indigenous people all over the Americas and the world suffered during this time period and continue to do so even today. This type of misrepresentation and glorification disables readers from understanding the roots of grievances and tensions, perpetuating the ongoing superiority-inferiority complexes that persist among Caucasian North Americans and Native Americans even today. This is applicable to so many other racial groups whose disparities in wealth and social equity today have deep historic roots. But bias also takes form in underrepresentation of perspectives and historical context. This can take form in describing a group's actions without representing their perspectives and reasoning. This can be the complete exclusion of information which is very relevant to the issue, or it could simply mean undervaluing an event's importance. I feel that this form of bias is most dangerous, as it subconsciously perpetuates hatred and resentment through ignorance. I interacted with this when Operation Ajax, the United States mission to overthrow Prime Minister Mohammad Mossadegh and give the pro-Western Shah power, which directly led to events such as the Iranian Revolution and the Iraq-Iranian War, was given no more than one paragraph. Meanwhile, President George W. Bush's labeling of Iran as the axis of evil was given its own feature. I interacted with this when my history textbook failed to mention the fact that the United States intercepted Japan's consideration of surrender through peace feelers before the bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. We have all interacted with this form of bias. Could each of you name as many notable women as you can men during each time period of history? Give women in history more than a paragraph or a few sentences, because when you don't, you are telling a student that these women and these stories are not significant enough to have more. According to the background papers from UNESCO's All Global Monitoring Report regarding quality education for all, the vast majority of teachers situate their lessons within textbooks, and globally, students tend to spend as much as 95% of class time using textbooks. This demonstrates that they are heavily relied upon all over the world. Many researchers have focused their attention on textbooks and their roles in society. They have been described as manifestations of claimed authority, and they have a profound impact on identity construction and intergroup relations. Many experts in the field of political education confirm that textbooks have a sense of authority because they promote their content as universal truth, and because they are given to students by figures they trust, such as their teachers, their parents, and their government. Yet many researchers have reported bias, stereotypes, and non-inclusive narratives that marginalize minority groups and infiltrate negative impressions through the means mentioned earlier. Therefore, if children are undoubtedly believing a one-sided narrative, it decreases the possibility of open communication and peaceful coexistence with other groups. Furthermore, these two umbrellas of bias are derived from a synthesis of literature that I have been studying for almost a year. These are the findings of researchers and experts analyzing textbooks from all over the world, yet it relates to textbooks that I'm currently studying today. This is a testament to how global this issue truly is. Furthermore, this bias, often disguised as absolute truth and unquestionable fact, is read by our most vulnerable group, who wouldn't even think to question the credibility of their source. It is addressed to youth who may not have the time, nor interest, nor experience to read their source, read beyond the bias. From this, I hope it is very clear why the academic world is deeply concerned about bias in textbooks. However, we need global awareness. So therefore, as a student, I would like to use this platform to make a few requests. Don't teach me history as facts that are unquestionable, but simply as what it is, conclusions about human interactions in the past from available narratives and evidence. In science, we are told that our world is ever-changing, that everything is true until the day it is disproven. Teach me history with that same disclaimer, that the narrative may change upon the discovery of new findings. In doing so, you are teaching us that our perspective about the world can change. Have courage to teach me about my country's wrongdoings without malice, nor villainization, nor glorification. Whether that means racial inequality, racist immigration laws, war crimes, alienations, or interference in political affairs, as I will be proud to represent a country that can apologize and not confine me into ignorance. Teach me about why and how the winners became the winners without justifying their victories. Give marginalized people the platform they deserve. Give women more than a paragraph or a few sentences or a miscellaneous did you know feature that will go unread, because our brilliance and our very existence will never be respected if it is never completely seen. Tell us these stories to reinforce that bravery and strength have never belonged to a single race nor gender. Thank you.